Okay, it is 7 p.m. and today is Wednesday, October 9th. This is the Riverside School District 96, both Committee of the Whole and regular board meeting. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Mr. Barsati?
Present.
Ms. Gunn?
Here.
Ms. Kalick?
Here.
Mr. Marple?
Here.
Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Ms. Claps?
Here.
And Mr. Muirhead?
Here.
Okay, quorum is present.
Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Does any board member wish to propose a change to tonight's agenda? Nope. Okay. Well, with that, we'll dive into it, and I'll hand it off to Dr. Ryan Toy for the superintendent's report.
Thanks. So tonight we have new sixth graders, new to Hauser this year. And Chris, I'm going to introduce you. Chris, our assistant principal, is going to share a little bit about why these students are here, and then they're going to get up and tell us a little about their sixth grade transition to Hauser, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for having us. Welcome to Hauser. Thank you parents and students for coming. We know in District 96 we have a couple big transitions. One of those, and two that Hauser are responsible for, are getting our kids ready for high school and also getting our kids ready as they come into middle school. So we just know that that's really important to us as educators, I'm sure to you guys as families, to make sure that that goes as smoothly as possible. We have our kids as prepared as possible to meet those challenges. So that's why we decided to invite our sixth graders here tonight to speak about how they've done with that transition. And I'm going to introduce Ms. Cayesta, who is our student support coordinator, to kind of talk a little bit about how what questions we ask the kids and how we prepare them to speak here tonight.
Good evening. I'm Katie Cayesta. I'm the student support coordinator. We chose this group of students as they've had a successful transition to Hauser Junior High. We gave them a few questions, things that they were nervous about looking ahead to junior high and what they were most looking forward to. Then we asked them, once they've done that transition, what's helped them to be successful, who has helped them along the way, and they're excited to share that with you this evening.
So could I have our presenters, you guys have your numbers, can you guys line up this way for me, okay? And then we did have one other student who was unable to attend tonight, but she made us a little video. So she pre-recorded a video about her experience and how her transition has gone so far. So we'll start with Lucy's video, and then we'll move on to our in-person presenters.
Hello, my name is Lucy Avalos from Hollywood Elementary School, and I am here in this video talking about the things it was like for me transitioning from elementary school to middle school. People would sometimes ask me, do you have any worries coming into sixth grade? I was worried about having enough time getting to class. 3 minutes felt really short to get all over the building. I was also worried about the teachers would be mean if I was late. After the first few days, I found out that it was not really what you expect. It's the complete opposite of what you expect. Getting to class is easy, and the teachers are really nice. My advice is that it's exactly like elementary school, except you switch classes for every subject and getting to meet new people. That is my experience from transitioning from elementary school to middle school, and hopefully everyone is having a good day.
Hi, my name is Hazel Umbrecht, and I went to Ames Elementary School. I was very worried about finding my classes, not opening my locker, and being late to classes. Mr. Peters spent time with me on the first day of school, opening my locker and making a plan to get on class on time. But by the second day, I felt much better.
Hi, I'm Valentino Illick, and I am new to District 96. I was homeschooled for the last 4 years, so I was nervous about starting at Hauser. Making friends was a little scary. I didn't know that I already knew kids at Hauser, so that made it better. Then the friends that I knew here introduced me to their friends.
Hello, my name is Charlie, and I went to Blythe Park Elementary. I was very worried about getting lost at Hauser because at Blythe there's only one hallway. The tradition to Hauser class was a very fun way to learn my way around the school. Mr. Meyer helped us practice with fun activities that really helped me.
Hi, my name is Lulu Jansen. I went to Ames Elementary School. I had a lot of worries coming into 6th grade. I was worried I would forget my locker combination and have to miss class because I had to go to the office and ask for help. Turns out I really got the hang of opening my locker quite quickly, and there's always teachers in the halls to help out. I was also scared I would forget where my classes were and get lost in the big building, but I soon realized that finding my way around Hauser was just as easy as finding my way around elementary school.
Hi, my name is Izzy Lavity, and I went to Hollywood Elementary School. I had a lot of help getting ready for Hauser. I did the transition to Hauser class. My older siblings helped me too. They helped me by giving tips on how to get around the school. My mom printed out my schedule for me, which was a huge help. Now I have my schedule memorized.
Hi, my name is Thomas Bradford, and I went to Central Elementary School. The hardest thing I've had to overcome this year was getting to class on time. I needed to know how long it would take to get to other classes, so I brought my stuff to other classes so I didn't need to go to my locker as much. Opening a locker was another thing that I needed help this year in Hauser. Opening a locker is much different from using a cubby, but with a lot of practice, it becomes a habit.
Hi, my name is Sienna, and I went to Central Elementary School. I was nervous because I started school 3 days after everybody else. My friends were a huge help. They reminded me to take deep breaths and be confident. They also helped me to get around. My advice would be to ask classmates for help before you leave your class. This way they can help you get to your next class together.
Hi, my name is Penny Wendell, and I went to Hollywood Elementary School. The transition to Hauser class really helped me prepare. Mr. Mason was a huge help with our lockers. He taught us how to use the combination lock, and we had to practice on actual Hauser lockers. Because of this, I had no issues on the first day of school.
Hi, I'm Henry Riazzi. I went to A.F. Ames Elementary School, and these are the people who helped me the most during the transition from Ames to Hauser. The people who helped me most during the transition from Ames to Hauser were my parents. My parents are the people who helped me the most because they gave me lots of advice about middle school. They said just go into it knowing what I'm capable of and just stay calm. One thing that my parents also did to help me was sign me up for the Intro to Hauser summer class. The final thing that my parents did to help me prepare for 6th grade is they walked the halls with me. Those are some of the reasons why my parents are the people who helped me the most. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Parker Clemens, and I made a transition from Hollywood to Hauser. The advice I would give to the 6th graders next year is that you should try not to be late for class. Even though the teachers are not collecting tardies at the start of the school year, to help me get to class on time, I printed a paper schedule, walked my schedule with my mom, and the lockers take practice, but you'll get used to them after a couple days.
Hi, my name is Henry Kalick, and I went to Hollywood School. My biggest challenge was learning how to use the combination lock. In the past, I've only used key locks. My advice would be to take extra time to memorize your combination in practice. At the start, I would have a little trouble, but after Mrs. Esposito helped me, I was all set.
Hi, my name is Marcel, and I went to Ames Elementary. Don't be scared. It's pretty easy to find your way around the school. Most sixth grade classes are on the 2nd floor. Gym, orchestra, and band are pretty far away, but there's always a group of 6th graders heading that way. Stick with them and find someone else with the same schedule as you. My locker is pretty easy, but it took practice. I like that the school locks are attached to the lockers.
Hi, my name is Cece, and I went to Central Elementary School. Middle school is not what you think it is. I thought I would be late to all my classes and getting lots of detentions. I also thought the teachers were going to be mean. My advice is to not overthink it. It is very similar to 5th grade. There are bells to dismiss and send you to lunch, and the teachers ended up being quite helpful.
Hi, my name is Gretchen, and I went to Ames Elementary School. My advice would be to practice your lock. If you know how to do it, you can open it in about 5 seconds. This takes a lot of stress out of your day.
My other bit of advice is to schedule your locker stops so you do not have to go there every passing period. This helps a lot.
All right, that was great advice and great insight. And I don't know if any board members have questions for anybody from the group.
Kudos to everyone. My daughter's in 7th grade. I attended the open house as a parent where we have to walk your schedules, and I was tardy to almost every class. I really don't know how you all do it. So I love hearing. Just, good on you guys.
Did you all do the transition to housing class on the summer? Yeah. That's pretty fun, huh?
So what's been the best part of the program? Yeah, go ahead.
The best part about the program would probably be learning how to unlock a lock, since most of my time I used the key locks. I mean, my bike lock is a key lock. I couldn't focus on 3 different codes. But definitely learning how to unlock a lock has definitely helped a lot.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Like just for me, like the most exciting part of the program was probably like the ways like we were taught how to do the things. It was like with all these fun stuff.
Go ahead.
I thought it was fun when he timed us, so Mr. Mason would put like 15 seconds on the timer, and then we would have to do our lock in 15 seconds.
Wow. Go ahead.
My favorite part was when Mr. Mason would like put on different parts of like certain movies that would time us to do our locks.
Sorry, go ahead.
When I did it, he did like this fake running your schedule when it was like time.
Go ahead.
What I like the best is that you would like get a fake schedule, and then it would be really fun because you get to like run around the school, but you had to open your lock and like grab all the things you need from that class, and then go back and put your stuff away like a normal day at school.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. I know you probably have busy schedules in the evening here too with homework and other things, so yeah. Okay, so you don't need to stay for our full board meeting. Parents, thank you for bringing your children. It's great seeing everybody here.
And then parents, we were hoping to get a quick picture of that. We can just do it in the hall, if that's okay. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
All right, I had just one other item under the superintendent's report, and it's not a minor item at all. This is Principal Appreciation Month, and the state of Illinois, the executive department always puts out a proclamation of appreciation for our principals. So I won't read it all here, but it has some great pieces to it. It's attached in the board agenda, and I think at one point here it talks about how our principals are so great at encouraging, supporting, recognizing the great work of our students, and their passion and their perseverance really truly shape our schools. So I just want to thank our 5 principals and 1 assistant principal, Chris, who was here tonight. I know he's already left for the picture, but anyway, happy Principal Appreciation Month with October 25th as Principal Day. So that is all on the superintendent's report.
All right. So we'll move into the committee of the whole portion of the meeting tonight then, and we'll start with the Education Committee. Ms. Kaylee?
So I'm thinking I'm going to turn it back over to you, Martha,
Sure.
for updates on strategic plan goal 1 and 4.
Yes, and we have kind of a combination of things. So Angela, I think, is going to come and take Kathy's seat. And there's a few things Angela will cover, a few things I'll cover. So.
Do we need a microphone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do we need? Hey, Marla, can you move that microphone to the
Oh, yeah.
Or just so it sits in between you two. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
There you go.
Just make sure it picks up. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. So
I'm going to talk, as Martha said, I'm going to talk about a few things under education, and we'll bounce back and forth a little bit. The first thing that I just wanted to talk about tonight is that the Illinois State Report Card will be released on October 31st to the public, and then I will do our annual Student Achievement Report at our November 6th CAL meeting. That Student Achievement Report, you might remember, includes a report on our MAP growth from last year to over the course of last year, as well as from the fall to from fall of last year to fall of this year. We'll talk about IAR achievement, which both MAP growth and IAR achievement are part of our KPIs as well. So you'll be getting an update on the KPIs at that point. We'll talk about the equity journey continuum and the student report card, or the state report card, sorry, which includes our summative designations for each of the schools. You might remember that the summative designations are either, there's 5 designations that a school can receive: exemplary, commendable, targeted support, comprehensive support, or intensive support. I'll talk more about how those are determined and where our schools are at the Student Achievement Report in November. The designations are comprised of our ELA growth at a school, our math growth at a school, and that's 50% of the designation, 25 for ELA, 25 for math. The designation also includes our proficiency in math and ELA, and that's 15%, 7.5 each. And then science proficiency is 5% of the designation total score, and our English learner progress to proficiency is 5% of the designation score. Now, not all of our schools will have an English learner progress to proficiency score because there weren't enough students to have a score in that category. And so what they do is they take that 5% and divide it out then among the categories that they do have. So some of our schools that do not have ELPTP will have higher percentages than for the other categories that were there. And then the designation also includes chronic absenteeism, which is 20% of the designation score. And then the climate survey, and what that looks at is the student participation rate for the climate survey. So what percentage of students at a school in 4th and 5th grade at the elementary schools and 6th or 8th grade at Hauser completed the 5 essential survey. So that's that 5%. So we'll talk more about that then at the when I do the Student Achievement Report in November.
There's, in the grading system, there's a couple items that are listed as not yet ready for implementation.
Yes, so the state's going to implement those in upcoming years. Right now they're projected, and I don't remember off the top of my head which ones they were, but right now they're projected to begin implementation of those. They're saying with this year's testing, the spring 25 testing, so it would be in next year's report. But they're still working on how the business rules for how those will play into the designation scores. So right now, those aren't part of the designation scores, but they just want us to remember that it will become part of that 25% for the climate piece.
One of them is listed as fine arts. Is that just, do we have the program or not?
It's going to be the participation in it, but it's not, I don't remember which classes they're counting as fine arts classes, so it will be the participation in those fine arts classes. Yep.
On the definitions page, there's a lot of stuff in here from like 2019, 2021. Like, are we still trying to come out of all the COVID stuff, or am I misreading that?
You are not misreading it. They actually, the state has moved out of most of the business rules that they were using for COVID. Okay. So I would have to look at that to see which ones they're talking about. But like, for instance,
it says ELA math and science. It also says new in-term proficiency targets for ELA math and science based on state average performance from 2021. It seems like
there's a chart that was developed in 2021 because pre-pandemic, there was a chart they were using to say students need to hit these certain proficiency marks every year, and every year the proficiency marks grew because they're trying to get us to a certain proficiency. I think it's 90% by 2035. So it was growing, or 95%. So it was growing each year. But after the pandemic, they redid those charts, and so they want us to make sure we're using the charts from 2021, which lays out every year from 2021 on.
Okay, so it's not a
No.
It's not a direct impact of COVID, but there's just an adjustment because of
Correct.
that. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions about the state report card? Just following the order of our agenda, we probably should have organized this slightly differently. But anyway, another notification that we just received this week, and I've shared this before under superintendent's report, and it reads like not the most exciting piece of news, but it is a very exciting piece of news. It looks at our overall special education programs and compliance related to our programming. We're required to obviously always consider the least restrictive environment, meaning that our children are in the most inclusive settings possible based on their identified special needs. So it's always great news when we get the notification from the state that we meet our requirements in special education. And I know Nora wasn't able to be here tonight, but thank her and the entire special education team, but it's really the entire district because it really takes general education, special education, supports and services coming together to create IEP programs that make sense for the individual students that need them. So
is it just a binary choice then you either meet or you don't?
or out of compliance, yeah. And then if you're out of compliance, there's certain areas that would be identified.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is Institute Day.
So this upcoming Tuesday, October 15th, your kids will be home with you, and the staff members will be having professional learning for the day for Institute Day. For this Institute Day, we are going to continue our work with diversity, equity, and inclusion, going over or working through sessions 5 and 6 with Dr. Yvette Dubiel for the DEI programming that she has been working on, the 10-session program she's been working on with our staff members. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback of our work with Dr. Dubiel, and the staff members have been really receptive to it and seem to appreciate it. So it's been a great piece of work that we're doing there, and that will be in the morning. In the afternoon, we will work with standards-aligned assessments as we continue to work on the path towards standards-based grading and reporting. We do have a guest speaker coming in to talk about standards-aligned assessments. Her name's Jan Chapuis. She does a lot of work on assessing, the reason for assessing, why we assess, making sure assessments align to what we're teaching, and what we want to ensure students are learning, and then how do we use that to continue with students' learning. We start talking about Institute Day many, many months in advance. I know that even a couple weeks ago, we started talking about February's Institute Day, and I remember looking at Martha and just saying, I just want to get through October 15th before we start thinking about February. But because sometimes Institute Days involve speakers, we have to plan way far in advance. And so when we started talking about October in spring of last year, we had thought the professional learning for CKLA would have started off better than it had this year. And that teachers' needs would have been better met at this point. We are working through that. There are ways that we are addressing the teachers' needs with CKLA, but in hindsight, had I thought about it a little bit differently, I think we probably would have done CKLA in the afternoon rather than the standards-aligned assessments. But because we planned it ahead of time, because it does involve a speaker flying in who already has flight arrangements, hotel arrangements, we're continuing with the path that we're on. But just so you're aware with CKLA, because I know that that's a large investment for our district, and we want to make sure the teachers are able to use it properly and that they are understanding it, I do want you to know that we have other ways for teachers to receive professional learning in CKLA. We're going to do site visits for kindergarten through 3rd grade on October 23rd and 24th to see lessons being taught, which is one of the things our teachers were saying they wanted to see. Our instructional coaches have been great about providing coaching cycles that take the beginning of the year assessment data and backwards planning with our teachers. That is something that they put out a schedule and said, let us know when you would like to meet. We'll meet 4 times, give us 4 days and times that work for you. So it was a volunteer type of thing. And we've had a number of teachers who have taken them up on that, and so that has started. And then we have individual school coaching. So coaches from Amplify will be coming to the schools that we're working on scheduling out as well. So we are still working on meeting the needs of CKLA, even though we aren't doing it on Institute Day this upcoming Tuesday. And then Empowered Teams is next on the agenda, so that is also me. Empowered Teams is work that we've been doing. It's about professional learning communities. It's about teams collaborating together for student instruction, student growth, student learning. We started this process with Empowered Teams last year, where we focused on why and how teacher teams collaborate. We have a lot of teams that collaborate and have a good team structure, but often the collaboration's around planning based off of the curricular resource and moving from this lesson to this lesson, this unit to this unit. What Empowered Teams stresses is using those resources to plan for instruction, but then looking at how students are doing on your formative and your summative assessments. So on quizzes or on conversations, on discussions, on writings that students might do throughout units and lessons, and then on those end of unit and end of lesson tests, looking at that to then talk about not just how Angela's class did, but how did Angela's class and the students in her team members' classes do also, so that we can see at third grade in our school or across the district, how are students performing, and are they all getting stuck in the same area, or are they all doing really well in an area? Is there something that only my class is struggling with? So I want to talk to my partner and see, what are you doing in your class that might help me? And so that's where we're working with Empowered Teams. It's just refining how we collaborate as teams. So last year we focused on the why and how of collaboration for student learning. This year we're actually doing the work of that collaboration now. So we started the year with one-on-one team coaching with our CEC consultant, Margot Sikeli. Margot and I met with every team in the district over the course of 5 days. And we were able to meet the teams where they're at. Much like we ask our teachers to meet students where they're at, we were able to do that with our teacher teams. And we have some teams that are exceeding collaboration standards, and we had some teams that are not yet there, but we're working together to get there. And so it was great for me as the director of teaching and learning. All the principals sat in their buildings meetings also, so it was great for the principals to see where their teachers were at too, and what supports might be needed, and how we can continue to move them forward. And so now what we're focusing on is being intentional about instructional practices that we do in the classroom. So we just had a 75-minute professional learning session where we reviewed high-impact teaching strategies. And some of those strategies are things like setting goals with students, explicit teaching, showing worked examples, collaborative learning among students, giving students multiple exposures to certain items. How do we question students? How do they question each other in lessons? The feedback we provide students and the feedback that they provide each other from lessons, and also how do students think about their learning with metacognitive strategies. And so the teachers on Monday reviewed those strategies and reviewed the components of those strategies and what it looks like if a teacher's doing it, if a teacher's doing things that aren't quite that, as well as what it looks like for students. And they picked a strategy as a team, an empowered team, that they're going to work on intentionally implementing. And then in November, when we have our next empowered team meeting, they'll talk about how that strategy is working in their classroom and what student data is showing them, how it's impacting student data. The thing that our survey data is showing us is that while we're seeing an improvement in how teachers are feeling about the empowered team's work, our elementary teachers want to see how this is, their priority is also CKLA, right? So what we are working on, based off of the survey data from our teachers, is that we're working on incorporating CKLA in our empowered teams. So we'll be moving forward with looking at utilizing these empowered teams specifically for literacy, not like as a literacy PLC, and looking at the instructional practices from CKLA that they'll be intentionally learning about for our empowered team structures. And so that's the work of empowered teams, and it just continues to evolve a lot based off of what our principals see when they're running the meetings, as well as based off the survey results that we get from the teachers and seeing what they're saying their need is and how we are hitting the mark, or if we're missing the mark, where we're missing it, and how can we work with the teachers to better meet their needs through our 75-minute PDs.
Questions for Angela related to any of that?
The teams are grade levels, right? Not buildings?
So we have two ways to structure it. What it's been up to this point is grade level in a building. So the 3 teachers at Ames are an empowered team for kindergarten through 5th grade. The 3 teachers, kindergarten through 5th grade at Central, are their own empowered teams. There's 6 empowered teams. And then Blythe and Hollywood have been teaming together so that it's 3 teachers, the 2 from Blythe and 1 from Hollywood, so that they're 3 at the 6th grade levels. They have their 6 empowered teams as well. But one of the things that the survey is telling us is that not only do they want more collaboration around CKLA, they want to do it as a district of 9 teachers, not broken up by school. And so in November when we get together, we are going to get together as a district level grade team, so it will be an empowered team of 9 kindergarten teachers, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and so forth. It can be either
So it's
way.
all of it, basically,
Yeah.
in some
Yep.
form. Okay.
Yep.
Are you getting what you need from CKLA to make this work?
I am, short answer, not yet, but I do have meetings with higher ups at CKLA right now that I'm meeting with next week, and to talk about the fact that we have not been getting what we need professional learning wise. I've also been talking to other districts to see what they've been doing and how they've been structuring their professional learning, and if they have someone from CKLA that's been meeting their needs. And then through our through the curriculum directors in West 40, there is a West 40 person who can also provide professional learning in CKLA, and so I'm going to be talking with her also about how she can support us with implementation. So I'm working on not just relying on CKLA and on Amplify, but at the same time, I want to see if they can do better.
What exactly can you be more specific on what you're not getting from CKLA?
So
that you need?
Yes, I can. So when we did the sessions in September by grade level, what was explained to the person that was going to do it, you always have these meetings before they come and you say, this is what I need, this is what where we're at, and whatever. When I explained where we were at and what our teachers needed, which was they don't want to hear any more about why we do CKLA, they want to actually get into the materials, learn about the materials, plan with the materials. The person said, yep, I got it. And then she came and she did none of it. And it ended up being more of a question and answer session that Sarah Hickey and I pretty much led together, instead of that person leading it. And the teachers walked away and they're like, well, that was great. You were able to answer some of our questions, but it wasn't what we wanted. So that's what I mean by not getting what we need. If I tell you I need X, then that's what I need the trainer to do. I had mentioned that our teachers wanted to see a lesson taught so that they could see the lesson from beginning to end. And that's what I wanted when the individual coaches came to the buildings. And the person that I was talking to at that time said, oh, no, we don't do that. We'll just do a section of it. And I'm like, well, if I'm paying for it, you should do it. So that's where I talked to our rep and I'm just like, this isn't working. We can't continue this way. You're getting a bad reputation with my district. And that's where he said we need to talk to the VP of professional learning so that we can get this worked out. So that's my meeting on Monday.
I think it's important to note that we're hearing good things about the resources. We're hearing they're complex though, right? There's
Yes.
a lot, we knew that when we made the decision to move forward. So teachers are saying, no, like the content, the stories feel rich, the materials seem very appropriate.
The
And
students are very engaged.
Yeah.
We're
But
getting
it's
reports of
been
kids
the
who go
professional
home and
development
talk about the
piece.
materials. But yeah, it's been the back end of making sure the teachers have the support they need, and that's what I'm furiously working on to get them.
And the curriculum was like well spoken about from other districts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it still is.
So is it just the luck of like what we get?
That is a part of it, because our EL teachers had a great professional learning session with the person they had, and that's someone that I'm asking if we can bring back, because she does both the ELA side, Caminos, but she also does CKLA. So I am asking if she can come back and be one of our coaches. It's the luck of who you get, but it's also just like making sure that they understand as a company where our district is and what we need.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're exploring a lot of different resources for help, which is sounds like a waste of your time, which is what I'm concerned about. But if there's anything that we can do to help or support you, please let us know.
I appreciate that. I will tell you, it's actually not a waste of my time.
Okay.
And I say that wholeheartedly, truthfully, because it is providing other collaboration means, right? So CKLA could have been great in providing great professional learning for us, and I may not have reached out to another district to have our teachers go visit it actually in action in another classroom with a teacher. And they're going to exchange, by the time that's over, they'll have contacts with other teachers in other districts who are implementing it. That will be more resources for them too. It's another, I'm talking to other districts that are looking at other ways that they're addressing different needs that maybe CKLA, the company reps, may not have shared with me. And so I don't feel it's a waste of time at all. I think it actually is informative and just continuing to inform how we'll practice.
Yeah, no, I think those are fair points. So I'm glad you're giving the feedback to the organization. So if there's anything else that you need help from us, just let us know.
I will. Thank you.
Just to piggyback off that, and I'm sure this is already part of the plan. Obviously, in the years I've been on the board, we've approved and implemented new curriculum, so it's unfortunate that this one has kind of been rocky a little bit since the start, and that our teachers don't feel like, we're not really setting them up for success on the back end. But it'd be great to hear just ongoing updates outside of like the Institute days on what measures like we have been able, or what steps we are able to take. Perhaps more than we routinely are with curriculum updates, just because of some of the nature of how this one's rolled out. I'd be really curious just to continue getting, updates on where we're at, what you've been able to get for the teachers. It sounds like, to Wesley's point, you're doing a lot on the back end to make it happen, but yeah, just perhaps more routine updates than we might normally receive, given how it's transpired.
And I could see that happening when I give Goal 1 updates, including that in there, right? So,
natural points probably
exactly,
where it makes sense to address. Okay.
Yep. And along those lines, I did mean to say, and you can ask more questions about CKLA if you choose, but I forgot to say when I was talking about the Student Achievement Report, as I mentioned, not a lot, but a couple of pieces of the Student Achievement Report are part of our KPIs. What I also want to do regularly, your question just reminded me of that, your statement, is that I want to give regular reports on our student achievement as well, not just the November report, and then we don't talk about it again until we talk about KPIs in June. So looking at probably giving an update after we benchmark in January, so probably at the February Cal meeting, so we can talk about what does our MAP growth look like from fall to winter, as well as our achievement and MAP from fall to winter, and any other assessment pieces that we might have from our benchmarking. And then we'd have that natural time at the end of the year where we talk about the KPIs and the growth and achievement at that time as well. But just trying to give another point for student data as well, which we'll also talk about ELA data then and see how the implementation of CKLA is going in terms of student data. So any questions on that or CKLA?
Sorry, one final question, just generally on Institute Days in general. So you were obviously we were going through the agenda for the upcoming one and completely understand, scheduling and speakers, et cetera. But can you kind of just remind me high level, how do the topics for Institute Day come about? Are there designated members from our staff that serve on like a committee? How are we gathering the input from our teachers on what it is they would like to see at these Institute Days or training needs that they have?
So up to this point, it's been through our strategic plan drives our goals and the work that we're doing in our district. And so our action teams have been the ones I've helped decide at what point should we do SEL, at what point should we do standards-based grading and reporting, DEI, so forth. Surveys like last year that were telling us the professional learning we're doing right now is not helping. We need to know how to address, I think it was student behaviors or mental health, I can't remember which one it was, but those surveys from staff members were telling us that we needed to pivot in February of last year, and that's where we pivoted, and we had IRC, it was multilingual learners. So we had the Illinois Resource Center come in and help with multilingual learners, a professional learning on that. So we look at the surveys also and how we're hearing like CKLA, we need more CKLA. That tells us that we're trying to figure out, is there a way for us to do that? February's Institute Day. And then, so that's how it's been done up to this point. But in looking at this October one, there has been a discussion among cabinet level administrators, and we also brought it to DLT, that we want to find a way to have more teacher voice than just our action teams. And so that is something that we're exploring for how we can incorporate more teacher voice for planning out, not just the rest of this year possibly, but definitely looking at next year and saying, like, these are all the things, the menu. Now talk to us about priority-wise from a teacher's point of view, what needs to be done when. And so having more teacher voice on the timing and the priority of all the things we're working on.
Thank you for answering and elaborating on potential future adjustments.
I didn't want to interrupt your line of questioning, but I also don't want you to think that the board didn't just hear what you said about having more regular updates on student growth and achievement. And that is something that I would really enjoy hearing more about on a more regular basis. So I don't want you to think that that was just our silence on that point was us saying, no, we're not really interested in it. But I do think that would be great.
Thank you for that feedback. I did not take it that way, but thank you for the feedback.
Decorum prevented us from applauding, I guess.
Anything else?
All right. I think that's
Yeah,
it
so
for me, too.
I'll talk briefly about Goal 4. So Goal 4 is our Family Community Partnerships goal, and shared an overview of the anticipated work for the year, with our first meeting being next week. So a lot of detail is shared there. It is interesting to be in year 4 of a strategic plan, because I feel like we're sort of like moving on, doing things, trying to make sure that things feel sort of baked in and have the opportunity to become really continuous parts of the district, but also areas we want to grow. So continuing to work with our parent leadership team, that's important. The parent ambassadors part, which is really connecting new parents with current or parents that sort of know their way around District 96, know their way around an individual school. Each school's done that a little bit differently. We've had to really rely on, Marlo's done it very specifically at Hollywood and sits on the committee also, but so I appreciate the nod. But each school's done a little bit differently, and some of it's just based on the number of volunteers they have, the number of new students they have, and I think that's working, but we'll continue to refine that. You heard tonight about the 6th grade transition. So there are a lot of parts that I feel like the Family Community Partnerships Action Team has kind of taken on under our umbrella of how to enhance the family and community partnerships. 6th grade transition, 5th to 6th grade transition is always a worry, I think, in every community, or that elementary to middle school transition to whichever grade levels it may happen. So the Family Community Partnerships 2 years ago was very instrumental in really reviewing that outdoor education, the trip that is now to White Pines. It had gone away during the pandemic, if you recall, and there was sort of this like, maybe it could just go away. Like maybe, but really the committee heard from Meredith Harvey, who was the teacher coordinator for the trip, and really I think helped her reflect, and the sort of very strong response was, no, this is a really important part of how our students make a transition. It's very important, sort of baked into the community as a really important tradition here also. So that has continued, and just rave reviews on how this year went. I know some of you had your own children participating, so hopefully it felt that way on a personal level as well. The SEL action team, which is really our learning environment and culture action team, is also interested in perhaps more integration of the SEL work and our family community partnerships work. So look forward to finding more ways to integrate our shared work, which I think is really kind of ultimately one of our visions, that the strategic plan doesn't exist in 5 different goal area silos, but that the work really is integrated. Named a number of things that we're doing through our West Suburban Consortium for Academic Excellence, because I think they represent some of these special areas of student learning and community connection. So those are listed there. And then 2 things that I have, and I should also just jump around here and say that we are also planning to redo our family engagement survey, which is different than the 5 essentials. We did it 2 years ago, felt that there was valuable feedback on that, but also not so much that we needed to repeat it every year, but repeating it every other year. So we'll do it this year and then see the kind of results that we get, and are they really actionable results for the committee and for the district to work with. I also note here about communications, and I know this is something that the board has also talked about. and have a unique opportunity that's been presented to us in working on, I see the header in board book says strategic plan communications. Strategic communications was really the plan. I think we just automatically get to strategic plan whenever we type the word strategic. Plan probably shows up. But strategic communications, or it might be referred to as marketing. And I always think marketing is an interesting term for a public school district because we're not necessarily looking to recruit customers. I always say we want to take incredibly good care of the children that are in front of us. And Nora was reminding me today, Nora and Kismir, about how popular our Early Learners program is, and that's great, but it's also a problem for us because there's just a limited number of spots in that program. So, but there is a proposal here that I just am eager for the board to take a look at around working with actually a community member, a parent in our district who also has background and expertise in strategic communications, and I am very intrigued by this as I think it could really help us move some of our goals forward with just making better connections with our community. You're all aware we've updated our website. We have a new vendor, our new platform for the website. It was specifically chosen because we were told, right, by West 40 back when, that we don't necessarily tell our story as well as we should. I think we have a great story to tell. I think our sixth graders talking tonight are part of that great story. So how do we feature that more? So the website by design has a more student-centered feature, way to it. There will be an app that will come to accompany that, which we also know that's a lot of the ways people digest communication is using a smartphone, so more to follow on that. Building more two-way communications, and then just being more thoughtful and strategic. So again, this is something that I would like the board to look at if you have any questions or comments about it. Actually, Molly Castor is her name, the person that presented the proposal, would also be more than happy to talk directly to the board if that was of interest to all of you. I've met with her twice. I'm very, very intrigued by this, and it's something we've kind of been talking about, if you recall, is like just how to enhance that. And we know many districts use somebody on staff or a vendor, and this is a way to maybe try a few items to see if we notice a difference, right? Are we hearing from our community that between the website and some other efforts that there's better communication? Yes, we want our families to feel good, to feel satisfied, to be pleased with what's going on. But it also is more than that. I mean, there really is this whole big idea that by connecting with families and ensuring that parents in particular are engaged, yes, the whole community, but that children really do better, right? Like, we know it takes the family support to really improve and sort of continue with the important goals we have around student learning. So any thoughts, comments, questions about the proposal?
My initial reaction was, if there's anything that the consultant should be doing, is looking at ways to build engagement. And I say this as maybe too much so, but a little bit skeptical of website and social media stuff. It's great that somebody's consuming what's on their phone, but if they're not coming to and physically and talking to the district, then I'm not sure that the electronic site is doing all that much good.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is our attendance at our parent nights, our parent-teacher conferences, people do tend to come to our stuff, right? Like like we've talked here before, like our winter holiday and Veterans Day, like it's a great problem to have that we end up with more people than we have capacity for sometimes, right? So we've had to shift our schedules around to make those truly safer events. So I think it's, like, I tend to think of it as some of the in-between times too, where like people come to the things that they get invited to. Some of our parent information sessions maybe could be better attended, but
and I'm not saying that we aren't promoting things via electronics, but the measure isn't whether or not somebody clicked on it, it's whether or not they show up.
Yeah.
So that's...
And we've, I look back even at the whole goal 4, and even when we launched the strategic plan, there was a lot of nebulousness to this goal 4. Like, what did we mean? Was it business partnerships? Was it children doing service work in the community? And I think it's landed around, family engagement and improved communications and opportunities, right? Like, I love our family learning nights that we've had. We've done the family STEM science night and a family math night the year before. This year will be a family literacy night. But like those are very well attended. Teachers love, like the teachers on our committee, like they love that, right? I mean, they really love those special opportunities. They love connecting with families, and they love creating also those special opportunities to do it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces to it. I think this is one piece that could refine. It's not going to replace. It's not going to be the whole answer. I don't think any one of these things are the whole answer. I know it's something you all have talked about as a board too, like
we as a board recognize that there's a need to improve our communications with the community, and by hiring this consultant who is very proactive in her review of our communications already, it's a pretty low risk way of us to have somebody come in and see what she can do to help us with our communications, and share best practices across the schools on communications, and sort of refine some of our written docs or published docs, and so I like it. I think that there's a lot to learn. You know, the high school district hired somebody full-time to do something like this, so to have somebody come in as just a consultant role is, I think, a good way for us to go about doing this. And I think people do consume a lot on social media, and so I think it's important for us to be there, even if, you know, we're not getting clicks, and even if we're not getting comments. I think sharing the information helps build community.
So, I mean, I would agree that I don't think it's a bad idea. I guess right now, to me, it's very nebulous what we're trying to do and what are we trying to improve upon. And so if we're going to be bringing in a consultant, I'd sort of like to know more specifically what communication really are we deficient in. I mean, communications is a broad term. It's like, how are we communicating? I mean, there's verbal, there's websites, there's written. So I just sort of like to be a little more specific. And then also when I read through this, I didn't really see, it talked a lot about schools, but one thing I didn't see is how do we reach out to the community? Because that's always sort of been our deficiency, is like what is her plan to do that? So I'd be more interested in a proposal on like what she wants to do, or I mean, I'd be willing to like look at that, but let's see where are we deficient? What do we want to improve upon? Because I just don't want to say let's improve upon communication. Give us something.
Step one is to sort of set those goals in motion, like come up with like what she calls a strategic communication plan. Because the first, I think, step is to kind of come in and analyze. And she's done a lot of it already because she's a parent in the community, and just meeting with her, she's like, I've done some deep dives on your website. I've followed a lot of links, you know, and she had done like a lot of looking at our family community partnerships work. And she came to me with some questions like, but you don't really answer this part, or it's not clear. Don and I know have talked about the strategic plan part of our website. There's like lots and lots of links. There's a lot of the early sort of phase of our initial development of the strategic plan 5 years ago. And it's like, does that go away? You know, like, I mean, so I think there's some thinking about like sort of analyzing, assessing, and then setting some goals, which I also think like your feedback as the board, because it is something you all have identified as a goal area too. This is definitely a shared goal area. Would you want to meet with her? You know, like I know when we did our board self-assessment, they talked about a possibility of a community engagement workshop with the Illinois Association of School Boards. That sort of sits on the back burner as an idea. But I think, I know like when we looked at communications a couple of years ago, our West 40 person said like, your board is not featured anywhere on your website, not in your district office. Now you have a picture hanging in the district. I mean, and I don't mean to make light of that, but you know, you all do this incredible work of serving the community, and there was no information about you and why you do it, and the importance of that work. So I think there's layers and layers. I agree with you. Like communication is so broad. I'm not sure.
And I guess that's sort of where I would like to know what a proposal would be on like. And I'm not. I mean, I guess like sort of like the website. I mean, granted, we just changed the website, but like on the website, do we have too much? I mean, do we have too much information? Is it not organized? I mean, where are we deficient? I guess that's what I'm trying to look at. Is just be a little bit more quantifiable and say, instead of say, let's have somebody come in and help us with our communication. Let's be a little bit more focused on what we're trying to improve.
Well, and related to that, so like, I feel like it was, even though it feels like a while ago, the last time we met with Family and Community Partnerships, we were talking about the annual report and how that goes out to everybody in the community. But we don't really have a really good like a pathway for people in the community whose kids don't go to our schools to like react to it? Or do we have them take a survey, or do they throw it in the recycle bin right away? And so I think that was kind of where we stopped, and we were like, well, we don't really know how to move forward with this.
And I guess that's where I think that would be
helpful.
Yeah, and that's where I'm trying to go, is like have her come in and say, these are like the top 3 areas that I think you need to improve upon.
Yeah.
And go from there.
I do think there's a question about your direct feedback on, this is, if we, let's say, hire this vendor, approve this proposal to create some strategic communication goals, yes, improve on the annual report, and then perhaps sort of refine our social media presence are the 3 areas that she kind of identified right away. But would you want her literally to come and present to you at the full board table, which is one option she offered, or do what we sometimes do is 2 board members meet with me? Like, that's another way we could go, because I'd like to come back to you with more detail, and I do think this is a board, district, building, like there's so many layers to communication.
I mean, I'm interested to hear, but I think only because we've been talking about it in family and community partnerships. I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to hear a presentation of what her thoughts are.
We've done that before with architects, or this is like a professional services.
Honestly, it's always good to have someone review these kind of things, and as I recall, her expertise is a little different from schools. I think she works with libraries, but still similar enough.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, having someone, if nothing else, just review what we have out there posted and identify the strengths and weaknesses, I think would be immensely valuable to us. And yeah, I would definitely be interested in hearing from her if she's willing to come.
And so we're expecting somebody who has presented a proposal for not a large sum to give a full review and decide where we need help, even though we've all identified that we need help with communications, and we're not going to pay them until after we assess whether or not we like the 3 areas that they've identified as being the areas that we need help. Is that what I'm hearing is being proposed?
That's not the way
I guess I'm thinking she may come discuss the proposal. So when she identifies this core area of strategic communication, like that's sort of a specialty term, right? The communications, but I met with her twice, right? And she said to me, she goes, yeah, I like your website, could probably use some cleaning up. You don't, she just, she said, you don't tell your early learner story at all in your communications. You have this great program, so it was a conversation though, right? She wasn't providing me with a presentation. I didn't ask her for that. But again, I think probably coming from the library world, they work with boards, she would be very comfortable coming to talk to the board. I know that's a bit of an unusual, we have done it with architects is one area. You've all done it, not for years now, with attorneys. I think you do that. I think that's, where you can interview different firms, auditors, those are areas of professional services where boards have some decision making.
I guess I'm just resistant to having an individual who we know doesn't have a necessarily an attorney or an architect might have a larger sum contract long term or a longer term of engagement, right? And this is not that for us right now, and so I would be hesitant to ask that of somebody if we weren't truly interested in moving forward on it.
Do we not have to do an RFP?
We don't. For professional services, we can do, I double checked that with our attorney. So we can say this person came to us with sort of unique qualifications, living in the community, children in the school district, and then professional background in this area, right?
Yeah.
So she's no, you can make a selection.
Because if it had been something where there would be an RFP, anybody who responds to the RFP has to make a presentation stating what they would do.
I think RFPs have to be over 25,000 or something.
Yeah, I think this falls under
35 or something.
Depending how much we.
It's not 25,000.
No, it's
maybe
5
5.
an hour, $10 to $20 hours a month for 7 months. I'm just saying. Whatever. I thought it would be interesting to hear something more specific.
And I guess my to Selena's point, I guess my thing is if she's willing to do this, it's not. If she's willing to do this, it's not like I'm willing to take her up on, accept her offer. I mean, but I'm not.
To talk to the full board.
Right, or if she wants to talk with us individually, I mean, or do what you suggested about 2 board members.
Yeah.
I guess, like I said, my thing is, I just don't want to go into something without a little bit more concrete of like what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, like you mentioned, early learners, do we not do a good job? And I'm not like asking for some bigger details like, okay, how do we advertise this or how do we better communicate this? It's just like, these are the areas and like, this is why I don't think you're not doing a good job doing this. And how.
So you, Marlo, David, you would want to talk directly.
I'm just interested, yeah. Because she gave the example of just like a part of the website.
Go around the table.
No, I think knowing where, I mean, she's kind of set it out here, but why exactly are these the top 3 things that we should be looking at? And to Selena's point, it's relatively low risk, but I don't think half an hour or whatever time to present to us is asking too much when you're talking about 10 or 15,000.
Trying to figure out how to articulate this. I mean, I guess maybe unlike the board members who've spoken, I was even just kind of comfortable exploring and moving forward with what was in front of me. Like, sure, it'd be nice to hear, but I don't know that it's something I felt I needed. This has been one of those goals that kind of has been like a head scratcher where I'm like, this is more kind of concrete direction than I feel like we've had on this in a while, and it's kind of like presented itself to us. So, you know, if somebody comes, yes, I'll listen, but I don't know that it would necessarily, I'm really intrigued and interested in potentially moving forward with this, so I don't know that it would like change my mind. Maybe I could ask more questions and be more informed, but I don't personally feel like it's an absolute need. Just from what I saw, I was already kind of intrigued and comfortable potentially moving forward, but I might be in the minority.
Austin, you had said, right?
Well, I will concur with what Stephanie said. I mean, I'm intrigued with it already. If she's willing to come meet with us, I'm happy to hear it. If it makes more sense, I guess I'll be sensitive to what Selena's saying. It's not a very high dollar value contract, so we don't necessarily want to take up too much of her time. But if she's willing to come, I'd be willing to listen. If it makes more sense for it to be a scale back just to 2 board members, that's fine too. But yeah, outside of that, I'm intrigued as well.
I don't disagree with anything that's said. I completely agree with what Selena said. I want to be cautious of how much we ask for before committing to something, just because it's an individual, it's a community member, parent, time. Although I like that, I'm intrigued, and I think we should move forward with something on this. It is a little vague on just like, okay, well, what would be in each of these categories? But I think the thing that kind of pushes me over is we've been struggling for this for 4 years since we created this goal, and I don't know where to go with this. I will say, I'll put a quick plug in, our new website looks fantastic. I don't know if it is organized better or not, but it looks and feels, as soon as I went there, I was like, oh wow, this is so much better. So, and with a lot of things I've done, poked around on other people's websites, I went, this feels very familiar. So a lot of people must use this vendor. But I think just, you know, you gotta, people have to feel it or they're not going to engage, and it doesn't matter what your content is. If it's boring and drab and not enticing, people aren't going to read it, people aren't going to engage with it. I am not on social media at all. I hate it. So I do struggle with like, what am I missing, because I'm not on social media and I don't go to the website every day, every week. I go there when I need something. I pretty much rely on emails from the school in whatever format they are. So I think if there's a way, the one thing that really stood out to me is under develop the marketing plan, that last one, I guess it's the sub bullet, foster community partnerships, you know, i.e. chamber, realtors, village, library, like that's really intriguing to me. Like we've been talking about how do we have better partnerships, how do we tell that story. The realtors one is one that I hadn't really thought of, but probably should have, because they're helping bring people into the community, right? And then we've been trying to build a better relationship with the village, and then the library just seems like, I mean, I'm just thinking like flyers that people can take and stuff. So I think there's enough specifics here that I'm comfortable like seeing what she's thinking in a little bit more clarity. I think the thing that's getting me is like, do we pay somebody to tell us what their ideas are, or do they tell us what our ideas are and then we pay them? So I don't know that I have.
Would
We
it make
feel a
more
little
sense
split
for her
on
to
this.
provide written answers for this to try to flesh out these 3 phases that are mentioned here?
Or maybe just give us a proposal. I know this is somewhat of a proposal, but be a little bit more specific on what we're trying, what she thinks we need to approve upon. And
Yeah, I don't know that I need like a full hour presentation, like
Right,
a fancy
yeah.
PowerPoint, but just like I would spend 10 hours doing these 4 things and whatever. I don't know that we need to make her come here for a full public thing. So if we want to do like a 2 board member thing, and then we can just bring that back in some capacity, or if she is interested in talking to us as a full board, be happy to put her on the agenda. I'm very interested in moving forward. I'm hearing the conversation. It doesn't feel like we're all on the same page, so I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of hard to move forward when we don't really have.
Right.
So what I think maybe I'm hearing is 2 board members. So I'm looking over actually at Marlo and David, although David, you both are, I know, everybody's busy. So I'm wondering about asking for a more detailed proposal and then sort of a conversation with 2 board members. And then we move, decide if we're.
Because this really wouldn't be a contract, like per se.
Yeah,
it's really more
it's
hourly.
Actually, and with the dollar amount, it's really not in professional services. The board doesn't have to. I would put it under consent agenda at the very least. Like I would always want the board to sort of approve something that we're spending any money on. That's just how we operate. But it is it's at such a dollar amount that. Right, it's not like hiring an architect or an attorney or something.
No,
So
and to
it's
Selena's
very
point,
different.
like RB has hired a full-time person. We're not there. We're not even sure we have enough for a full-time person. That's a huge expense. This is a very limited expense. It's a very controllable expense. We use it when we need it. I'm looking at it as more of like, we need 10 hours for this thing, and we pay somebody 10 hours for that thing, and we don't have to worry about like what we had the somewhat successful, unsuccessful, like splitting the music teacher thing, and like who needs a third of a job, right? Like it's just so this feels like it's filling a gap that we've been struggling with. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep repeating myself at this point.
Maybe just to frame it one other way is that, as a board, Martha has brought this proposal to us. We've, as a board, communicated to her on many occasions that we think that there can be improved communications. Martha has presented this proposal to us. It's somebody that she's already met with 2 times.
Yeah.
She thinks that they are will be a good resource for this district. And why shouldn't we rely on her judgment here and approve this contract?
Because she offered to talk to us about what she was thinking. I guess that was why.
I think
I'm just
that-
curious. I guess I'm curious too because of being in family community partnerships, and we've talked about this so much that I'm super curious what she wants to do. I just, I'm not trying to undermine your.
No, I don't take it
opinion
that
at
way.
all.
It's because I also know from like board goals, like you've all said, like how do we better engage, or do you as individuals, right? We talked about like village trustees sit at the farmers market, right? Like is that there's sort of the everything from visiting local businesses to just being better featured on our website so that people have some background information and understand why you serve here on the Board of Education. So yeah, it's nebulous to some degree and it's complex, it's broad.
But if you have the vision, then
I think she's actually got what we want, and that's in the statement next steps. And next steps is to define scope, deliverables, timeline, and rate. So I think her meeting with Martha and 2 board members, we could define that, and then we'd have a proposal in front of us after that. That gets to what everybody's.
I think we just found the resolution, because I think that was a very good reframing, and your point is that is exactly there. So if the 2 of you want to meet with Martha to make sure that like the board is scoped correctly before we actually dole out the money, then I think that seems like the right path forward from what I'm hearing.
I mean, my only concern was scope and what items are we really focusing on.
And then we're not delaying anything, it's just, okay, we are gonna move forward. We'd like to
Mm.
understand what that looks like and how many hours and what the thing is, and then we can formally approve it. As long as we're all good with it, like we'll
Yeah.
formally approve it.
I think too, like if it involves us at all too, that might be nice to know.
Yeah, and I think it could, right?
Right,
Yeah.
because that's what we kind of want.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so
So-
some kind of like a conversation, interview might be not quite the right word, with two board members.
Why don't we, would it be fair to say we are gonna move forward, and this will be the next step in moving forward? We can always change our opinion, change our mind, and not, if it doesn't meet our need, or scope it to meet our need, and then we can bring it to the board table for official approval.
Yeah, I don't think, my intention was never to say, just
No,
Is that, am I hitting the mark? I'm trying to put all of it together.
I think we're just at the next steps point of what she presented.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah.
And then just.
We got there.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you, thank you. And I just had one other thing, we already talked about this, it's actually on our website, and I shared it at the last meeting. We once again have Detective Richard Wistocki coming in to talk about keeping our children safe online. That's October 17th, that's next week here at Hauser. He'll speak to students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then he'll offer the session for parents that evening. And then we actually have just scheduled sessions for 4th and 5th graders. That was a recommendation that came from families last year that heard him speak, that that would be a great topic also for children even younger than middle school. So that is set for, we just did November 6th. The 4th and 5th graders will actually be coming over here to Hauser from all 4 of the elementaries and hearing Richard Wistocki speak. So principals, you should hear that from your principals.
We'll just throw in it will be age appropriate, because this
Yeah.
is an awful and disturbing topic.
Yes.
But he's very engaging in it, and it is very eye-opening. I went last year, and it is very enlightening.
He's a bit provocative, maybe more than a bit. And so also our elementary principals, because we literally just resolved the scheduling. It's not easy to schedule 4 elementary schools to get on a bus and get over here and all those details. We just resolved it today in terms of the November 6th. So you should be hearing from your elementary principals that, hey, there's a parent night on October 17th, and the children will have a conversation on October 17th for the parent night, November 6th. So parents might really want to go hear him, which will be about 3 weeks before their children would hear him.
Yeah.
And he does speak to younger children. Don has been the one coordinating with him, but we'll make sure he's age appropriate. But he does. Yeah, I hate to say scary, but because he'll be talking to younger children. But
it's not. I mean, it's scary, but that's what it is. I mean, we see it's in the
the
news.
world.
Yeah, it's the world. We see it in the news every day.
Yeah. As an adult, you can't be blind to this stuff.
Right.
You need to know how to.
Exactly. So.
And I think where he's really made this role for himself, Richard Wistocki, is that he's talking to school districts. This is his sort of niche. So he's used to talking to kids. He's used to talking to parents. So.
And he's a 20-something year veteran of Naperville, I think, if I can remember his credentials correctly. But he was a detective for a very long time, focused on this, and then sort of got into this role with networks, and now he travels the country kind of talking to people about it, and it's very informative. I would highly encourage anybody to go. Everybody to go.
Yeah. Even if you heard him last year, you might want
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it.
It's set for 2 hours, 6 to 8. I think he does speak for the full 2 hours.
Wait, actually, this is next week, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
can't
is
go
next week, next Thursday.
Otherwise, I probably would.
All right, that is all under Education Committee. So next is personnel.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like I was going to throw something in there, but I can't remember what it was. All right. Up next, we don't have any designated topics for personnel, but anything either of you want to address tonight?
We did meet.
We met, yes, we met last Friday. We talked with Don initially on preliminary updates on Goal 3, which is diverse workforce. And we also fleshed out around one of the topics that's in the consent agenda tonight about the substitute pay increase. Since it's part of the consent agenda, theoretically, we won't have any discussion about it. I guess it's good to note that we had fallen behind some of the area averages, and so this is looking to get us back up to not just the median, but a little bit above the median in terms of pay for both short and long-term subrates. Not a huge jump, but a jump to get us back to where we're competitive.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
that brings us to, anything else? I'm sorry. Yep, okay. That brings us to Finance Committee, so I'll pass over to Mr. Bersati.
And I'll pass it over.
I just gave you a memo there to show you where we are in the cycle. We have one more big item before this calendar year's up, and that's to have the tax levy approved in December. And then usually January or February, we'll have the audit and have the auditor come present. But the update on the Goal 5 is on the second page there. And not many things on here changed. They're kind of a little more annual. But the one thing we did was add down at the bottom 5.8. It wasn't really part of the original strategic plan, is include hot meals at every school. And that was up and running by the end of last year, and it's going well this year. September, the number of lunches per day is up quite a bit from last September. So it's not only available, it seems like they're eating them too.
Man, I'll tell you, my son is into those hot lunches. He was all mad that he missed cheese, but he took his own lunch yesterday. He's like, "They had cheeseburger." I was like, okay. No, I'm glad the participation is there. I know we were going to do it, but that was I know it was a concern of mine of just like, what does that actually look like? Do we increase it? And boy, that was not a problem. I don't think from the beginning. It seems like we've had pretty high participation to offset some of the cost discussions that we were trying to figure out. So I'm glad that's continuing. The only thing I had on here for you, or maybe you, Martha, is we have separate play and parking as a yellow dot under 5.7. And I was thinking, is that related to Blythe Park, since we haven't done anything officially to like separate it, or would we?
Maybe we updated it in May or June. The central project central housing wasn't done.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
This was our last one. But
Yeah, because Blythe is separated from the parking.
Yeah.
It's just that maybe there's an upgrade to happen in the future.
Well, I think a couple of years ago when we redid the parking lot, I think that's solved a lot of the problems with planned parking there.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
I
think
thought
that's
this was our last one.
Yeah, and
so,
I think it's
okay.
just because it was last updated.
Right.
Like our official update was at the end of the school year.
Okay.
And
There's always,
project has been
it's almost never ending too. You always want to make things safer out there.
we should
But
change it to green.
I will change it to green. I'll
That's
be
a good
happy to
permission
change it to green.
I mean, if we have met our goal of not having
Yeah.
kids playing in the parking lot, then I think
That's
it's
true.
I still love this area. I think can't get over the big changes.
And the grass is coming in nicely.
Grass is
So.
coming in, yeah.
And then the renovation and reconfiguration of the library media center, is that this room that we're talking about? Yeah.
All of them.
Or is that a different room?
We had talked about it in relation to this room, but then Martha, I believe we talked about it to have a global look at all the libraries.
Yes.
Maybe not Blythe.
Or
that's-
Well, Ames
Yeah,
was
you
part of
want-
that. Ames was sort of the lead in, that Ames sort of has the ideal library in some ways.
Brandon.
The
So
Yeah.
really
size, the
central
space,
houser.
the hub of the school.
Okay, so that's bigger than just this. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember what exactly we were talking about there. Okay.
Related to goal 5.2, do you foresee that goal being difficult to achieve? For instance, if CPI was really high in certain years and then CPI decreased in a way that the Fed is trying to make it decrease, will it be really difficult to attain that goal? Or is the goal written in a way that maybe that shouldn't be the metric, is making the super...
CPI affects our revenue, so that's the reason why it's used almost everywhere. So if we had a 10% CPI, we can only levy 5%. That would hurt, but
Right,
doesn't
but
mean
so
our
say this
expenditure-
year, if our CPI is only 3%,
Right.
right? But then, for some reason, our operating expenses in the forward years are more than 3%. Is CPI really the right thing for us to be metricing against?
And we could look at our individual costs and see if there's ways to measure how they're expected to increase.
So it sounds like you're saying you're
fuel doesn't
fine
affect
with it
us.
as written.
Sorry?
it seems like you're okay with the goal as it's written.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you thinking that costs would increase in a way that can't be predicted by CPI?
Potentially.
The biggest nut is always labor.
Right.
So CPI will always fluctuate. We have a contract that tells us what our budget is. So yeah, I could see, because I'm thinking back to that 10-year chart. We've had years where we've had sub 2%. Yeah, so I think in the past we've always found, maybe I shouldn't say find, there's always been other ways to kind of balance that out, I think. But I mean, I think going forward, who knows? Yeah, it's an unusual environment right now.
But I guess, are you concerned that we're not going to meet the goal? Is that your concern?
I just want to make sure that he's comfortable with that being the goal, because it does seem to me that there are circumstances where it would be difficult to meet that goal.
And I would agree with you. I guess my thought is, I think it's a good measure. I mean, I think it's something we should keep in there, and especially if Jim's comfortable with it. But I guess my thing is, just because we go yellow or we might go red one year, that's not necessarily. It's more of a trend, and we need to make sure it's like, why did we go that way? So, I guess that's my thought. Yeah.
I think of, of course, we talk about personnel, but like I think of last year, adding the 3 EL teachers, the additional coaches, the additional social worker. So I also I think the language of excluding additional board-approved spending gives, if there's like a unique set of student needs, certainly facilities, we know there's emergency sewer pipe repairs and things like that come up. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But yeah, I appreciate the comments about it.
Yeah, that actually troubles me some, because I like the idea of having a grounding of some sort, but if we say we're meeting this goal unless we say we're not, I don't know, that almost leaves a doorway to drive the truck through.
I think just working in this world of little humans and aging facilities, and I can think of all those areas that where conceivably things could happen. I don't know if that's what you're sort of alluding to. In general, right, living within sort of the identified means, but then there are unique exceptions that we bring to all of you, right? As the emergency sewer pipe repair, no joke, is.
And the operating expense budget is a very specific. That's I don't have the budget in front of me, but I'm thinking, is that one of the that's.
It doesn't include that or the capital project.
Yeah, the capital stuff is all out, because that's why we transfer from the operating fund to the other funds, right? So the operating fund is that specific fund that we're measuring with this goal, not like transportation.
It's the 5 or 6, mainly education and operation.
So then within that, that's where labor is like 80% of that cost, right? And so we know that our contract is coming to an end, so we'll have to. So that'll just be something, that'd probably be a board-approved spending if it kind of gets us out wonky. Is there anything else in there because then it's like supplies and general maintenance and things like that, right?
No, if there was a big project coming up, we would plan on it in Fund 60 in the capital fund.
So like a boiler replacement, would that go in capital? Okay.
Right. But the everyday.
And that'd be a board-approved expense, so, okay.
The one we're going to talk about in a minute, the pipe, that'll come out of maintenance, out of 20.
That's
so
out
there
of
is
maintenance,
contingency in there for, they're not everyday things, but in case.
Okay. You good? You good?
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
Is that all we have for finance? That is all we had for finance. Okay. Thank you, Jim. With that, we got facilities, Mr. Merhol.
There is a facilities. Sorry, say that again, Wesley.
This sewer pipe thing.
Yeah, this one is, I'm going to say, interesting based on some conversations that Jim and I just had. I'll be honest, the original price kind of stressed me out a little bit, but it would have been off normal hours work, which pretty much doubles everything, so that wouldn't necessarily be a surprise to get to 72,000. But the bigger thing, and Martha and Jim may have to help out with how we do this, based on the email, we need some better clarification from the village about ownership of the manhole, because I guarantee that's probably 2/3 or 80% of this cost. So I don't know how to approve. I don't know how to approve the contract as it's currently written. And it may be because maybe it has to be separated out between fix the sewer that's in our front yard. Sorry, there's two issues here. I should step back.
Yeah, maybe.
One is there's a sewer in the front yard that is collapsing.
Okay.
So that absolutely needs to be fixed. That is ours.
Okay.
That's the district's. But then there is also a manhole out in the street that is also failing.
And that's the brick sanitary sewer
That's-
structure in the middle of the road that they referenced?
Correct, and that's where and all the work that's described in the contract would be correct. It's just ownership of that manhole needs to be clarified, and therefore what contribution is appropriate or not by the district is what comes into play. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So I think based on our limits, the district just replaces the sewer pipe in the front yard. The manhole, I think, needs additional discussion. And I'm gonna say that's to you and the village and Ramesh, to be honest, is to figure that one out.
And Ramesh's feedback was the manhole belongs to the village.
And that's exactly where I'm running off of, but
that was my core question reading through the description of work here. It says it's in the middle of the road, and my first thought was municipalities control roads. Why are we responsible for this?
and
So
that's why you hear all the hesitation.
yeah.
And I guess, Joel, I didn't realize that the manhole is potentially 2/3 of this cost.
Oh, easily. This is cost estimating.
Yeah.
So have we talked to the village? Have you talked to the village?
There was one conversation, I think that's where this is all coming from. There was a conversation with Bill Radke, but I think we need to clarify. And I mean, a new manhole loan, say $5,000, another 10, and these are non-overtime rates, so. New manhole, $5,000, open up the street, 10 grand, double all that, now you're at 30 already. Extra
Problem we
labor,
have
pumping.
is that the work is scheduled for Indigenous Peoples' Day
And
because
a
it's a day,
week and a
right,
couple days.
because
So
they have to
that's
close
why-
down at least one lane of
Yeah.
Woodside Road to do the work.
I mean, it does truly feel like an emergency too. Like we can't just let all this stuff just
Well, the
pour into
man,
the ground, right?
the pipe, that's why I'm saying the pipe is absolute. I don't know what the condition of the manhole is. Is it blocking
But it
flow
probably
or
doesn't make
not?
sense to do what we think is our responsibility and then argue about how to fix the rest of it. I mean, I guess would it be prudent to just move forward with it and then argue with who pays for it later? Or is that,
Maybe we preliminarily approve this, subject to additional negotiation with and clarification with the
because
village.
they
That
can
might
always
be
cut
the
us a
best
check
way
if
to.
we get down to it. And the problem is if we do it and they just say no and that's the end of the story, we're stuck with it. So
And
it
that's
is a
why
risk,
I'm-
but
Yeah.
And these projects need to be done side by side. We can't just do pipe.
You could do them separate, and you'll pay a little bit extra, but the work in the front yard could be done during the day. I'm assuming you just can't have the kids out there.
can we fix our part without this brick sanitary sewer?
It all
I
depends.
mean,
where
it sounds like you have to
everything
do it
goes.
all, or maybe not, I don't know.
Not based on the photos that Ramesh shared.
I mean, just given that it's an emergency situation and
This hasn't probably come before the village. I don't know if the
probably
village
not.
board needs approval. It's unlikely that they're going to be able to pull
Yeah.
To approve this within a couple of days if the work is supposed to start on Saturday, right?
So what makes it an emergency?
What makes it, I mean, that it's
There was
broken and there's a hole literally right out here that's been mounded over with dirt and cones are there, but, you know, originally there was this idea that, like, it's a hazard to children, right?
Right, I know,
And so,
I guess that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is it
Not the pipe, but the ground
hole.
being in the hole, which
so,
is, yeah.
So I guess my thought.
This is a sewer line, so where is the sewage going?
Right, that's.
It's probably partially
Into the
flowing,
ground,
but
right?
it's working.
That's
Depends.
nasty. We gotta get
Yeah.
that fixed.
No, right. No, I'm not arguing. But I want to know: is it like a safety issue? Is it? I mean, I guess, or is it just because sewage is backing up? Because I guess my thought is, if we can delineate where it is, I'd say let's fix our part on indigenous people. Like,
Based on the description, actually, they are a little too close to do one and not the other. But Jim, is there a sewer backup issue?
Not that I knew of it. The only way we knew about it was the ground. So that has to have been like this for quite a long time, I'm thinking.
I mean, it feels the same as the last issue, just a little bit further down the street, right? Like,
Yeah.
because that was my thought. I was like, where has all this water been going, and how have we not noticed it until we dug it out of the ground, right? Like,
And I want to be clear, we're addressing the student safety. Like, there are, you know, it's literally right out
Yeah,
there.
sorry, I
There's
don't
a
mean to
mound of
dismiss
dirt,
that,
there's
yeah.
cones, there's, you know, so
Yeah,
we've been
we're-
able to keep kids away from it for the past 3 weeks now, 2 weeks. I mean, and because we knew, ideally, we wanted to wait until this holiday weekend coming up to give the people that fix it a time to close down Woodside Road. To do that on a day when Central and Hauser are in attendance is just even more problematic. Not impossible, I suppose. Just
out of curiosity, we can't be closing down the road without village approval, right?
They would have to.
So they know about what we're doing. Have they just come to us and said, "Oh yeah, this might be ours" or anything like that?
Jim said
If
more
anything,
communication
they
with
think
them.
our problem caused theirs. Is the way I understand
They were
it.
pretty clear it's our responsibility. So
I
this
would
is-
suggest that we approve the contract as it's written with the caveat that Ramesh and Jim have a hard discussion with the village about ownership and shared costs. That way we address the issue.
Well, I think
but-
I already know where the village is going to go with this.
That's why
it's
I'm
just sort of.
calling.
I mean, I guess my flip side is how do we know that
That's why
damage on their manhole didn't cause our sewer problems?
That's why I'm calling it a hard conversation, because
That's why
it's.
I wonder, like, I mean, we have survived for several weeks with it, you know, closed off from students, and do we, I don't know if it feels right to ask you to approve it tonight, you know, because
Yeah, it doesn't.
well, if we don't approve it, I don't think you can do the work.
No, I agree, I mean, but that's what I mean, like, can the work be delayed?
I think it's being delayed by the village.
Oh, is the village telling us we can't?
Well, I think they're the ones who are making it urgent and telling us we gotta get it done right away, but they
Well,
want
the
their
village
part
has said
fixed.
this is an emergency, not Ramesh.
Right, he got involved later. Well, it was the ground moving that
Okay.
made it an emergency. But we can get
Does
this quote
Ramesh think this
split.
is an emergency? Like, in his definition of an emergency, does this fit that definition?
I don't know that we're in imminent danger if we can keep it blocked off.
He doesn't say either way.
There's
urgent, I
like, there's
guess,
a,
but-
there's a safety hazard which we have addressed, right, a safety hazard to students which we have addressed by how we, you know, coning it off and things like that. Where the sewage is going, I honestly don't have the answer to that part.
You'd also have to know which.
It's an emergency in that, like, also, it wasn't in our anticipated costs, you know, and so the board has this way by resolution where actually 6 of you need to approve it in order for the work to be completed. Sometimes boards schedule special meetings just to, you know, make an approval like this. I mean, you're raising great questions, which I appreciate, and
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I would like to see if we believe that we should only be responsible for the fixing of the pipeline, the sewer line. I would like to see a proposal with that cost broken out from the other cost that we think belongs to the village, so that way we can go to the village and say, we think you're responsible for this, we think we're responsible for that, and we have something to negotiate off of. Because without a contract, we're just basically going to them and saying, hey, we think you should pay part of this, right?
That's why
Without
I'm not
knowing the
sure
cost.
it's fair to ask you all to approve it tonight, because I think, I mean, I get, we can always modify, you can modify a motion, right? To say, like, approve it with the caveat of this, but it seems like a big caveat.
I'll be the first, I'll be the first to say, I'm hesitant to approve, if it came to a vote, I'm hesitant to approve it. Because for a couple of reasons, I mean, cost being the big one, but also the term emergency doesn't seem to be safety related. It doesn't seem like that we're putting people, the safety, physical safety or health of people at risk by not doing it.
No more than it's been the past 3 weeks.
Right.
Or longer.
Or longer.
I don't know how long this has
Right.
been
True.
happening.
Yes.
Like the day we heard that, like, literally the ground sort of caved in that.
Like a sinkhole.
Yeah, that's how it was described to me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we have children walking into school, and then, you know, they filled it in with dirt and put the cones around. Like, I mean, it's like we were able to address that kind of thing.
If not this coming weekend, then when is the next day off? I guess
Election
there's-
day.
Election day.
Which could be a holiday for other, like, people doing the work, I don't know.
Is that an official
No,
holiday? for-
you're right, the state holiday.
That's
This
not-
Yeah,
That wouldn't be a holiday for
It would be a
for
state
street.
holiday, but it wouldn't be a holiday necessarily for private industry.
Yeah, but even, yeah, but
Well,
we're
do we
already
have any
paying,
polling places here? I can't remember.
Here, Hauser, yeah.
Hauser.
but I guess if we're gonna look at, I mean, we're looking at 70, like the cost for 72,000 and some change.
Well, I mean, if
it's a
if
holiday
there's
already.
the
We're gonna have a
overtime at a
holiday
minimum.
anyway, so.
Yeah,
That would
this
be
already,
interesting to
this
know.
72,000 already includes off schedule work.
Because then I would assume they get into, like, potential cold weather, and then that's a problem too?
Not,
No.
not for sewer underground
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
and not at beginning of November.
Okay.
November, all the plants will still be open.
It's been pretty
I
warm
also
October
wonder if,
so
like,
far.
a lane of traffic gets closed, we would put out a lot of announcements, we would ask people to walk and bike as best they can, you know, I mean, I wonder if we could manage that, it's not ideal by any means, but,
The
I almost
holiday
wonder if
was
that's,
just convenient, right?
the
'Cause we
holiday
got
was very
school, so-
convenient, yeah.
And they need 4 days because it says the work was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we could still do a Saturday, Sunday, but there might just be a little.
Well, we can do election day then, if it's gonna take 4 days.
Thanksgiving.
Well, they're giving themselves enough room to do the work. Always under promise and over deliver.
Monday would be hard. But the other days, it's still 3 good
Maybe
days.
those first few days of Thanksgiving
Yeah,
break
what about
week,
Thanksgiving?
like, not everybody gets
Thanksgiving
Monday,
would
Tuesday,
definitely be
Wednesdays
overtime.
off.
Right,
You have to,
right.
you know. so-
Thanksgiving though would definitely be
But we're
overtime. I
closed,
guess
but-
not the Wednesday, but.
But the thing is, though, we're out, school's out of session.
Right,
now.
Right, school's out of session because of the parent-teacher conference days,
Right.
so, I mean, in some ways, that's a better window of time. It puts it off, but it's really only another month, 5 weeks, right? Away. And I feel like we could get you, I feel like we don't have all the answers for you tonight. And it's a large dollar amount, and
7 weeks would be the week of
7 weeks.
Thanksgiving.
I think the first step was I'll get this broken out into whose responsibility.
Selena's idea is the best. And that's what I was meaning by a hard conversation, is just to have some defined numbers of, here's our part, here's the part we're calling into question.
I agree. I do agree, yeah, that with it, having it broken out, if nothing else, gives us more of a negotiating position with the village.
I thought we were just buying a manhole cover gold. I didn't think they could be that expensive.
I think this,
Steel's really expensive.
the description is looks accurate enough for dealing with brick and hole and just working in the public way.
Yeah.
Working in the public way is never cheap.
And when I read brick sanitary sewer, I'm thinking this thing's got to be 100 years old because we don't make those out of brick anymore. So it's concrete replacement of whatever the current standard is and all of that. So is that an increased cost to us because of today's standards compared to what they're actually replacing? or? No.
It shouldn't
Okay.
be. I
Okay.
mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with the brick structure. It just ages over time. In the city, you can take the old brick ones and spray the insides with concrete and make them last for another 100 years.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
brick isn't, age is the big issue.
So November 6th could be a special meeting where the board could act on this resolution with more information. And the other idea is like if we really feel like, oh, no, we underestimated that this has to be addressed sooner, then we could always, other worst case scenario would be schedule a special meeting. And we haven't done that much, but literally, with 48 hours notice after determining your availability, we've even done like at 7:30 in the morning, try to accommodate people's
Yeah.
work schedules, et cetera, as best as possible. So it does require 6 board members to approve it, our attorney reminded us, so. Okay. No, thank you for these questions. I feel like we need some better answers and better delineation of who's doing what and who's paying for what, and then, yeah, okay.
I'm
That makes
assuming-
Institute Day a whole lot easier, Angela. We were worried about parking for Institute Day, so everyone's coming here. That's not why we're postponing.
November 6th is 1, 2, 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks away. I don't think adjusting the bid will probably take that much time, but is that enough time to actually work with the village to do an approval? Like, do you think we'll actually have a reservation,
I don't know, because does it raise a
Resin-
question of
thank you.
needing to go to their trustees? I don't know.
Sure.
So-
And also, I know you mentioned, Joel, like not, yes, the cost, accounting for like 2/3. And I know in your reading, you're saying it has to be done potentially, like, can we confirm that it cannot be done piecemeal? Like, in addition
It
to
sounds like it
finding
can.
out what the cost is, can we confirm
should.
that we can just address?
Yes, that should be
Because
confirmed
then
as
that would
well.
account for the not being able to work with the
Yeah,
village over a
I'm
month.
trying to think just bigger picture of like, okay, we're gonna fill all this in and then you're gonna dig it up again and then you're gonna
Well, yeah,
and then
I
that
mean,
just
in an ideal
increases.
world,
And
we
we're all
would-
paying the same taxes here,
Well,
so,
and
like.
Wesley, that's why I think it's a conversation with the village. And, is it that I'm sure they've got lots of good ideas. They do have their own forces, meaning people. Is it something where we do part and they do part, or
Yeah.
there's.
And we can manage it, we can, whatever, I mean, so, yeah, okay. I mean, but do you think 4 weeks is long enough to go back and forth and get?
Yes, this
okay.
should be a and that's why I'm asking Jim and Ramesh, talk to the village.
Okay.
It
If
seems like
the
that
vi-
when we did sewer work before, there were like water reclamation district issues. I mean, is that just not a part of this since it's an emergency, or?
We would be putting back what's already there, so that's not, putting back the same configuration that's already there. So that's already,
So it'll already be to the approved standard, we're just preparing it, okay. That's a good question. Yeah.
correct.
All right, so we will plan to put that on the November 6th agenda then, that's what I'm hearing, Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Boy, that's a lot more conversation than I thought we would have tonight.
I was about to say, like, add that to my list of things I didn't think I'd have to discuss as a board member. But, yes.
Any other fun topics you have for us tonight, Joel?
I did not. I
Okay.
thought that was pretty good.
So we'll move into policy. Stephanie, I'm real glad you took press,
Yes,
whatever,
so
off the.
Based off of how I knew the agenda was shaping up for this combined Cal regular business meeting, and because we have the time, we have decided to bring the Press 116, which is the Title IX, substantive Title IX updates, to primarily Section 2 of our policy manual to you all at the November Committee of the Whole meeting. I would highly encourage everybody on the IASB website, the webinar. I always get it confused with IASB website. There is a webinar available that walks through all of Press 116. The first 30 minutes is really dedicated to understanding, the substantive changes of the Title IX. So I really do think it's worth a listen in the background, what have you. might help just better guide the conversation when we bring forth these policies to you. Otherwise, for tonight, under my agenda is just your friendly reminder to always be doing your homework, and that includes, this is the time of year where as a board you can spend time with section 6, which is instruction portion of our policy manual. Again, just familiarizing yourself, reading through, see if anything, you know, stands out, but none of these are under the current press. Press 117 will also be coming out. They said October. I don't exactly know what's in it, but that's all I have for policy. I don't know if there's questions or anything to add.
I did not get through all of the however many were in here, but like one that struck me, and I just have thrown it at you. We have one 6:130, and it's program for the gifted. And I'm just curious, is that what we still, because we talk about advanced learners a lot, so is that dated language, or is that official language, or is, I just
Gifted
curious.
is in the legislation, right?
Is
we
it?
have to and
Okay.
gifted is different than advanced. And
Oh, it
actually,
is.
when we do the advanced learning overview review process, my guess is some of that will be part of discussion.
I did not realize that was a difference. Okay.
Anything you'd add to that, Angela? Okay.
Yeah, more just a nomenclature question than anything else. So, all right. I'm about halfway through, Stephanie. Halfway. Just couldn't get through the
Joel's
rest
my
of them before
footnote
today.
guy. He's like, I read the footnotes and I noticed, and yes. But yeah, it's just, all right, thank
All
you.
right. That concludes the committee of the whole section for tonight.
Nice.
The regular business meeting should be much faster, I think. So, yep, let's move into the consent agenda. So could I have the board secretary read tonight's consent agenda topics?
Yes, tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes of the following previous meetings: the September 4th Committee of the Whole meeting, the September 18th regular business meeting, along with the September 18th closed session meeting. The personnel report as presented, the payables pre-list as of September 30th, along with the payables pre-list as of October 9th, the substitute pay increase, the leadership coaching catalyst for educational change, scope of services agreement for fiscal year 25, and the Institute Day speaker contract.
Does anyone wish to remove any of these for further discussion before we make a motion and vote? Okay, is there a motion for the board to approve tonight's consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Claps? Aye. Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Gunn?
Aye.
Ms. Kalick?
Aye.
And Mr. Muirhead?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, since we are in regular, we have the board member comments section. Any fun activities or other things that anybody wants to comment on? I already made my comment about the website. I was prepared for that one. Got that in earlier.
The White Pines trip, minus the smell of horses, was very much appreciated by my 6th grader. It started out with,
oh my god, smell of horses, like clinging to his clothing. Is
No. He's just said it smelled like
Oh,
horses
yes,
the
no.
entire time. But as we unpacked a little more after that, I found out all the cool things that they did, and he said he just got to do so many neat, like archery, and they were doing stuff with like fossils, and he brought like these giant rocks home. I was like, cool. I love it. I love these activities. I think they're starting to come out of their little shells. And I'm still shocked that he spoke tonight. So.
I'm gonna tell you, I grew up not too far from a cattle farm, and I swear cows are worse than horses. But
They are.
I appreciate the smell, though. It's bad.
Yes.
I will make a comment on the Rainbow Run at Blythe, which is a lot of fun, annual tradition. If for those not familiar with it at Blythe, I guess you have a lot of kids running around in a specialized T-shirts, and teachers are pelting them with different dyes and colors, and I think my son had to take 3 showers in order to get all the blue out of his hair. But it's a lot of fun. Everybody enjoys that every year.
I've seen those pictures year over year, and those kids are filthy. Looks like there's
Just a bit, just a
big
bit.
smiles on their faces, but they're filthy.
Just a comment from me is, I know our music program has gotten some great recognition, but just wanted to share that I got to experience personally how great it was over the past couple weeks as my son has picked up his trumpet. And, you know, it's just so great that so many of our fifth graders are playing an instrument, and it's giving them that bridge into the world of music that some might not have the opportunity to have, and potentially having long-term impacts on their musical interests or their social networks. So just a really great program. So thanks to the music team here for putting all that together.
Do we have strong? I think last year they said it was only like a
I
handful
think
of
it's
kids
like,
didn't participate.
yeah, it was
I don't know.
the number of kids that aren't playing a band or orchestra instrument.
Fifth grade?
Fifth grade.
From the last time I heard, we had all fifth graders except for one student.
Just one?
Participated.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. That's a lot of kids to get involved in that. As a
Yeah. And I know we've discussed, you know, just for those for whom it might be cost prohibitive to rent instruments, like, you know, the district has different avenues. So knowing that likely that reason is hopefully outside of a financial burden.
And our music teachers work really hard on that
Yeah.
to make sure that, you know, I mean, with the, as does our finance group, and yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
always
a really
something
important
I've been
point.
really
Yeah.
Pleased as a parent in the district and as a board member to learn.
When continuing to recognize that our elementary music teachers that really started out as general music teachers are all now teaching general music, band, and orchestra. So appreciate them very much, and I think sometimes they sell themselves short on, you know, I think their connections, their relationships, their skills, their passion for music in general, I think really builds that interest too.
Anything else? All right. Well, I'm going to skip over the next item because that was to approve the conversation we just had that we weren't going to do for the pipe. So that brings us to new business discussion, which is the IASB Joint Annual Conference. Stephanie, myself, and Dave attended last year, and I remember we came back and highly recommended putting it on your calendar for this year. So I don't know how many people are able to go. I'm going to go myself. I don't know if anybody else has comments about the committee report, but there was a few things I was talking over with Martha when we were planning the agenda that I just wanted to call out, potentially things on your minds as well. I think a couple of these things we've talked about in some capacity at the board table, but there's a number of resolutions that are up for adoption or not adoption to vote on. And a couple that caught my interest was number 2, the evidence-based funding proposal that charter schools have to use that as well. It was an equity play, or that was the reason that they suggested to adopt, is that would make even playing field for all schools in the state. Currently, chartered schools are not required to use the evidence-based funding, and there's a whole. I did a bunch of research on this last year and listened to a bunch of things on it, and there's like it was like a decade of work to get us to evidence-based funding. So just personally, I'm behind that one. Number 3, TIF accountability. And I'll be honest, I've tried to understand TIFs for a long time, and I don't quite get them, but there's some interesting commentary in there to read. And then number 5, healthcare coverage. If I'm understanding this correctly, the proposal is to have a state-based health fund as an option for teachers to go into, and it sounds like it came from a smaller district that might be, it sounds like maybe they're struggling being able to get affordable coverage for the population that they have, and just being in insurance, the more people you have, the more diverse your portfolio is, the cheaper costs can become because you can offset it, right? So it's just how the product works. And then do not adopt was a schools as a polling place, which I thought I was going to disagree with, but they do have a position out there, and maybe you can help me with this one, Martha. I don't know if you have any more. I did read the IASB position statement, and they have 7.08, which indicates, it's just a quick paragraph, that they are advocating that schools be allowed to refuse the requirement or the request. I don't exactly know how that comes down. It sounds like the municipality or the state or somebody requests that we are a polling place, and we are not allowed to refuse that. And they're trying to advocate that we can refuse that, but reading the current statute, I think it says the district must make the school available. So that's still what we're operating under, right?
Yeah, and, right, it's like the Cook County Board of Elections, I think.
Is that
And
who it
that's
is?
who we
Okay.
met with when we were asking to reduce our polling places or eliminate schools as polling places. I know just following what didn't really move forward in legislation from EdRed actually was this idea that some more rural school districts value being a polling place.
Yeah.
They feel like there's nowhere else in their community that people could come to vote. So it's another one of those where our thoughts in like suburban Cook County might be very different than someone else in a different area of Illinois. So
yeah,
it's a tricky one. I just appreciate in our own district at this point we've been able to at least consolidate everything to Hauser now. So
and so I think at the end I don't disagree with their do not adopt, because reading it, I had to read it a couple times to make sure I understood it, but the request for change here doesn't move the position any further forward that they already have, which is to allow a refusal. And I think to what you just said is, if you want to do it, fine. If you don't, you have the option. Today we don't have the option. So it sounds like they still have a position to lobby for that change, but it was this additional language that this school district wanted didn't really change that position, and so their recommendation was to not adopt. But there were just more things on here than usually are direct interest of us, so just wanted to call those couple things out and advocate for going again if you guys have the time and capacity to do that. It was a pretty engaging event. I was actually kind of surprised how much I got out of it, quite honestly. So I don't know if there are any other comments, but those are a few things I wanted to bring to attention.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it brings up a conversation about attendance, who is attending, and then designating the delegate to vote on behalf of. And actually in this manual that is attached at the end, I don't think we've ever done a motion for it, but there is some formal like motion language that, you move the board, much like we designated, village, gym, etc. So there is a formal motion where you can designate somebody on the board to vote in accordance with, the board voice. So maybe a practice we might want to try to do at our next meeting.
So, yeah,
I think we were like, I'll do it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
cool with me doing it. So there's a more maybe formalized way. And then just in addition to the ones that you referenced, Wes, I thought, I don't know, Martha, if you've talked to Donna at all about this one, but for the Faiths Law, like creating a centralized state agency for EHRs, because we already knew it was going to be really cumbersome for individual school districts to oversee this. So, I feel like that would be something that.
Yeah, and I think in particular, again, back to like smaller districts, I actually think we're managing it well. It was more daunting, I think, in concept than in practice, because school districts are participating in sending that Faiths Law verification information. So it's not felt as burdensome as we thought.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, but I could see how for some districts it could be.
So that's a good call out about the delegates. I didn't put that in my notes, so I forgot about it. I was thinking the same thing. So we might want to put this back on for November 6th, because we will then only have a regular meeting before, that'll be the week before the delegate assembly. So take a look at it, and then we can discuss it again and figure out how we want to move forward, or we probably need to we need to align on, do we want to vote for or against the positions that we have here and all that kind of stuff. So
I don't know if they had a presentation on this, but you can call me cynical. I question the value of any of this, because it seems like we've been talking about the same things, and over the years I'm not seeing any evidence that any of these votes that we take are meaningful. I could be wrong.
Well,
I'm willing to be told I'm
we
wrong.
vote to tell the IASB.
I guess I should clarify, not our votes in particular, but the votes of this body.
Yeah. IASB. So what we are doing here is, as a collective membership group, telling the IASB what we want them to lobby the state legislature. Whether they're successful or not is a different subject. So I mean, that's at its basic level, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
I don't disagree with with you. I mean, like the polling place thing, we've been talking about that forever, but I don't think we individually as a district are going to get the state to change. And if they can't, as a whole lobbying body, can't get the state to change, then I don't know what the other avenues are. I guess we could write our local representatives and stuff like that. But I got value out of I don't know if all of the topic, Kathy, you might know, have they set, I'm sure the agenda is set for like all the, what do you call them, seminars and the classes that you go to, conferences, yeah.
They're workshops, pre-workshops.
Workshops, yeah. I got a ton of value out of that content.
Dispersions on the conference itself. I'm sure there's a lot of great information there.
Yeah, but the delegate piece of it.
Yeah.
But I'm a delegate for one of our like academic pharmacy associations, and it's just that you're like a spokesperson from your institution on certain things that like you would want them to stand for, to lobby for. So it's kind of the same thing that like we're speaking, the delegate would speak as our district saying like I support or I don't support these resolutions and I want them to push it with the state or whatever. I know what you mean, but you're still like, I mean, it's like your role as a spokesperson kind of.
Well, I guess I'm pleasantly surprised I didn't see anything regarding guns this year. But you know, that, but again, the whole idea of if this body were to push for that type of law, that type of change in Illinois, it's just such a futile effort. It really seems we've put a whole lot of time into it for little result.
But I guess I'm going to push back a little bit, but that's the whole thing about. I mean, I see your sentence. It's very easy. I see that as well. But I guess that's our electoral process. I mean, that's our government. I mean, that's the way we operate here. And if we are not participating, we're essentially. It's then why are we like even in the positions that we are today? I mean, we need to advocate for the school in our roles, and I guess my thing is, yeah, will we be successful? Maybe not. But if we don't do anything, then we can't be saying why do we still have to be a polling place? I guess is my thing. So we have to, in my opinion, we have to take an action to do something, even if we're up against tremendous odds that we won't succeed.
I don't even look at it as a success or failure. I think it's making your opinion known to the organization that's represented us. And so flipping it, and I'm not trying to change your opinion here either, but we just earlier today, family and community partnerships, we're like clamoring for that feedback. And then so here it's like we don't even participate. The ISB is like asking us for our feedback, and we're like, but then we go get mad at our parents for not giving us feedback.
Yeah.
So that's more of how I look at it.
Then they speak for all
Sure,
Right.
and whether they're successful or not is
That's
out of our
what it
control.
is,
But
right.
at least, like, if we really say, like, no, we do not want you to lobby this, but we're in the minority, then they're going to lobby it. And so I think it's more of just like a voting. I look at it more of just like participating in the democratic process. I think it's kind of how you said it.
Yeah, you said it much better than I did.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but okay. So yeah, I'm planning on going. So if I'm the only one that goes, I can easily be the delegate. If others like to join me, happy to have some company.
Is there a limit to how many of us go? Or can we all go?
No, you can only have one delegate because you only get one vote per board. But all of us could go, none of us could go. Yeah, I know Martha's reminded us a couple of times, like those that live much further away make an event out of it, and then they do team, like they'll get together for dinners and stuff like. Since they're all up here for 4 days, you know, if you're coming up from like Carbondale or something like that, like the board will usually come up and make a board event out of it.
Yeah.
We don't do that because we all live locally, or we haven't done that, but.
There's not like an OMA because you're not discussing board business. You're you're attending a conference, so everybody could go.
Yeah.
If you want to, and
we
Kathy
can't
was
talk
happy to
about
handle
board
registrations, right? Kathy? So-
I mean, I'd like to go again this year as well. So.
So just let me know. Okay, I can register. Okay.
You can put me down.
Yeah.
I'll send you an
David,
email.
put David down. Sounds like you got.
All right. Any other comments on this?
Just whenever we do put it on the agenda, not only where, you know, if we are alignment with the recommendations on the resolutions, but there's also like a constitutional amendment to the ISB constitutional amendment about parliamentary practice. So that will also be up for the delegate to kind of cast a vote or direction as to whether the following amendment should be adopted. So we can select the delegate and make sure that we're aligned as a board or giving direction to the delegate on the resolutions plus the constitutional amendment, which seems fine to me at first read, but I need to take another closer read through these.
I totally glossed over that one actually, so.
And again, there's really nice sample, like I think page 21 has sample language for motions and how to add some of this to agendas. So we have some good guidance.
All right.
It's all about the Robert's Rules of Orders and when it applies versus when it doesn't apply. So you're really committed and married to Robert's Rules. Well, you might not like this change, but something to, I guess, consider.
Anything else? Okay. I think that brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. It does. I'm assuming no other public comment. Okay. And future meeting dates will be November 6th, Committee of the Whole meeting, 7 p.m. at the multipurpose room at Central School, down the hall here.
So I'll change that to a special meeting then?
Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
I guess depending upon, but it's sounding like we're anticipating we'll have a contract to vote on.
Let's assume it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. November 20th, regular business meeting, 7 p.m. here in the Hauser Learning Resource Center. December 4th, Committee of the Whole, 7 p.m. at the multipurpose room at Hollywood School. And December 18th, regular business meeting here at 7 p.m. in the Hauser Learning Resource Center. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.